Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Second City podcast with me, Callum.
And me, Daniel Sketchley.
We've got another huge week, a lot to get through, some huge stories this week, like Birmingham City broke the bank on deadline day. They've then played about what feels like 50 games since then. Aston Villa didn't really dabble into the transfer market on deadline day, but there was a couple of outgoings. But there was big draws in the Champions League and in the League Cup as well, and a trip to Leicester as well. And then we'll maybe touch on the upcoming international break as well. But Dan, we're back on Zoom. It feels like an age since we last did one of these, even though it was only just over a week ago. But so much has happened since we last recorded.
Yeah, if I had to describe the week that's just gone in a word, it would be overwhelming. Would be the word I'd describe. That is the word I'd use. For reference, we're recording this on Tuesday afternoon, so this is before. So I'm going actually right after this. I'm going to Blues Walsall, St Andrews in the EFL Trophy. So we'll get onto that a little bit later. But yeah, just for reference, why we're not really talking about like a result there. If something happened, if Blues won like 7-0, or if they lost 7-0, why are we not talking about that?
Why Albert Adoma scored a hat trick?
I forgot he played for you. He played for them actually. I hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, we'll get into all that. We'll get into we'll talk about transfers as well. We'll look at a quick look at the other West Midlands clubs, just what happened there as well. They had a few Wolves in particular had a load of incomings at the end of the window, so we'll get into all that as well. But before we start, Cal, should we start what we always do with what we're wearing?
Absolutely. I feel like you might as well guess mine first. Mine's the easy one this week.
Sure. It's only easy because it's the current badge, the new badge, which I don't think is anywhere near as good as some of the ones. In just my opinion, I don't think
But I mean,
it's
there's
as,
quite a few. There's quite a collection behind me. There's
yeah.
at least four
Literally
different
every
badges
kit's
up
got a
there.
different badge.
Five if you
Yeah,
turn this one around. Yeah, there's a different kit on every shirt. Yeah,
a different badge on every shirt.
it's a
Yeah,
different badge on every kit. Yeah,
sure. That must be it. Must be a goalkeeper kit. Must be your goalkeeper kit from this season. Your home one, I assume.
yeah. Get the badge in, Champions League badge, and
Oh dear.
there is a player on the back. Do you want to guess the player, Dan?
So I did. So I went to get a glass of water before we came on, and I could just see you like you'd like were clearly looking at it on Zoom, see how it looked.
Yeah.
So I mean, I assume it's Martinez, unless it's Enkelman or Nyland or one of them. I assume it's Martinez, unless it's your own name,
No, it
Martin.
is Martinez with the new number 23 in the cup font, obviously, because we've got the Champions League badge on it. Although I have
Yeah,
seen a few when they ran out of the cup font in the shop, people were getting the Premier League font with the Champions League badge. People can do
yeah,
whatever they want, but if I was working in the counter at the store, I just don't think I could do that. It just wouldn't feel
yeah.
right.
I completely agree.
Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, there's not really a lot to say. Emmy Martinez signed a new contract a week or two ago. I think we touched on it last week. Um,
yeah,
the Adidas goalkeeper template shirts, I think, for this season are stunning. I mean, the green one as well. I absolutely love the green one. Um, when I used to play Sunday League, I was a goalkeeper, and the two coloured shirts I always used to like wearing was black and green. So to have a green and a black shirt this year is like, for me, is like, oh, amazing. And I think the third is like a light blue, like this sort of like Man City sky blue kind of thing. Which it's not really my kind of thing for a football shirt, but it also quite nice. I think Adidas have just smashed it out of the park with their template shirts for the goalkeepers. So I love this one. Hopefully it's a great season for us. We're obviously going to touch on the Champions League draw, which happened with us. So I thought it was kind of appropriate to get this one on this week as well. Um, but yeah, quality of the shirts. So we touched on the Castor shirt I wore last week and how, especially this home shirt, the quality wise isn't very good. So the step up to Adidas this year is absolutely huge. Um, so yeah, there was something else I was going to touch on comparing these two shirts, and it has just slipped my mind. So I think we're just going to leave it there. Long
no
sleeve,
problem. I
very
think
rare to see a long sleeve shirt these days as well.
it is absolutely yeah. Even in like outfield shirts, I used to love a long sleeve shirt. Yeah, just can't get them anymore, sadly.
Oh, I mean, if they release our home shirt in long sleeve later on in the year, I might have to pick one up.
Yeah, fair enough.
So
Cool. What am I wearing this week, Cal? It's a black F&C Investments shirt, Umbro. Sort of
yeah,
white
I
and
could.
yellow collar on trim on the collar and sleeves. Yeah.
Yeah, tricky. I think this is a championship shirt. Maybe it was a Premier League, but I feel like when you had that sponsor in this sort of era, your away shirts were either red and white or they were just white and a bit of blue. So, right, let's go with 09-10 away.
You're correct, but that was a Premier League season. You
Oh,
are
well,
correct
of course.
though.
Was it?
Correct year though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely shirt. One that's really grown on me over time. I've always liked it, but really nice. Shout out to
Mm.
Pierce for lending me this one. I never got it as a kid. I think I got the home one from this season, and I think I wore it ages ago on one of a much earlier podcast. Um, it's not too dissimilar to maybe why I didn't get it at the time. It's not massively dissimilar to one we had a few years earlier in the Championship, which has a bit more yellow on it. But that was a Lonsdale kit, which I love, one of my favourite kits ever, favourite Blues kits ever. But yeah, this was 09-10 away, brilliant season, one of the best Blue seasons ever. Full stop. To be honest, it was the year before we won the Carling Cup, which is kind of one of our best and most heartbreaking seasons. But this season we finished ninth in the Premier League under Alex McLeish. It was the year we just came up from the Championship, and it was the year where we went on that, like, it was like a 15 game unbeaten run from, I think it was October to like January, um, and we won the 5 games in a row, I think, which was in November and December, which for us was like, on, your target's like 40 points. We basically did it in like that period pretty much. With that 5 game winning run, we did like almost half our points target for the season. And I remember the last one, I think, was against Blackburn at home. We won 2-1, and it was just a great night under the lights at St Andrews. I remember Jerome scored twice, I think. And yeah, we brought in a load of like just great players. Obviously, a lot of them stayed for like the cup win the following season, and a lot of them came in but were only with us for these 2 seasons because we obviously got relegated the following year. So it's kind of a really weird period of time. It was a hugely successful 2 years that then had a really shocking ending and kind of brought it all crashing down. But yeah, those players that came in would be like Roger Johnson, Scott Dan, Barry Ferguson, one of my favourite Blues players ever. Obviously, Stephen Carr had just signed about halfway through the season before, but he obviously was really influential in these Premier League years. The late Christian Benitez was a striker who came in, was Ecuadorian. Um, and so, yeah, as Seb Larson was like on fire this year. I remember we played Wigan away, and he scored 2 direct free kicks in this kit, and we won 3-2. That was in the 5 game winning run as well, I believe. So yeah, just a great season. Kind of like a core memories as a kid watching Blues. So yeah, 09-10 away, lovely.
Lovely stuff. Normally, this is where we go into the games that have been, but we have to start somewhere else, Dan, which is
Yeah,
deadline day. And I know we've said before we hate talking about transfers, but I feel like we have to because Birmingham had a crazy window anyway. It feels like you've signed about 50 players. You were doing a Fulham, basically,
yeah,
but in League One. And then to top it all off, I think you'd already broken the League One transfer record. And then on the final day of the window, in the final hours of the window, Tom Wagner and Gary Cook went a bit insane and absolutely annihilated the transfer record
yeah,
to
yeah,
re-sign Jay Stansfield on a permanent deal.
yeah. I think I said overwhelming earlier. Like
Yeah.
insane, just insane. So yeah, so we'll start with. We'll get onto the Villa transfers in a minute and the
Yeah.
stories there. But yeah, I think Blues is like the big story
Yeah.
in West Midlands transfer story football at the minute. Um, yeah, so let's start with the players that are gone. So we obviously, I'd said all window, like barely anyone's left. I was like, we're already in a great position to go back up because barely anyone's left. And obviously, towards the end of the window, we did let a few players go. Sariki Nembele has gone to Oxford.
Miyoshi
Tyler
went, didn't
Roberts,
he?
Miyoshi's gone abroad, which is the one I'm kind of a bit not gutted, but it's a bit of a shame. He was only with us for a
Yeah.
year. He had huge quality. I really liked him as a player, but obviously, I'm sure we'll get into why he's maybe gone in a moment. Something to do with incomings. Romeo Donovan and George Hall have gone out on loan. Tyler, which obviously they're kind of younger players, although George Hall can't be that young anymore. They're kind of younger players going out to get a bit of experience. I wouldn't be surprised, especially in Romeo Donovan's case, for them to come back eventually and get some good game time at Blues in the future. Tyler Roberts going out on loan to Northampton is a strange one because he was playing in the Premier League a few years ago. Like Bielsa loved him at
Yeah.
Leeds, and all of a sudden he's found himself at Northampton. No disrespect to Northampton, obviously they're in the same league as us. but he can't even get in the squad at Blues, which is
No.
like what we're about to get into. All the players that came in at Blues, and yeah, Bakuna's left as well since he wore his brother's Aston Villa shorts. Don't really think there's a way back. But good luck to him. He leaves with no ill feeling from me, to be honest. Like, I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, and I can see why. I think it's probably for the best that he moved on. A frustrating player, but has real quality, and I won't be shocked if he has a decent rest of his career. Uh, so let's get into the incomings. So Blues made 17 signings in this window. That is insane. That's like we all took the piss out of Forest a couple of years ago when they signed 21 players in one window.
Yeah.
We've come
I mean,
close to
you
like
used to take the piss out of us when we signed 11.
I know. True. So shall we? And I was trying to think on deadline day. I was trying to. In fact, I texted you like all the players we signed, and I genuinely
Yeah.
forgot like half of them. And like one of the ones I forgot was like Alfie May. He's like our top
Yeah.
scorer. So deep breath. Blues have signed all these players. Tamaki Iwata, Ryan Allsop, Lyndon Dykes, Bailey Peacock Farrell, Taylor Gardner Hickman, Alphonse Samstead, Ayumi Yokoyama, Emil Hansen, Willem Willemsen, Alfie May, Alex Cochrane, Christoph Clara, Mark Leonard, Scott Wright, Luke Harris, Ben Davies, and Jay Stansfield. An insane level of transfer business.
You know
And
what?
we're
I'd even
now like,
forgotten about Lyndon Dykes. I'd
yeah,
completely
like that.
forgotten that one.
But that's the thing. So we signed Lyndon Dykes, I think, on the 30th of August, the 29th of August, the day before the window closed. And we signed a player who's been playing regularly for QPR in the Championship. He scored for them a couple of years ago, and he's coming into Blues now as like our third choice striker, probably in League One. Like,
Yeah.
which is crazy. Like, if you look at, we could easily play two squads now. Our second team should win League One,
Yeah.
and that's crazy. Like, and then, but obviously the big story, this Tamaki Iwata is coming from Iwata, sorry, or however you pronounce it, is coming from Celtic. By all accounts, so he's a defensive midfielder. By all accounts, he's absolutely class. He's making his debut tonight against Walsall. Hopefully that went well. And who else did we sign on deadline day? Scott Wright came in on deadline day as well. And we'd already had an unbelievable window. And then in the last minutes of the window, we spend like the exact figures up in the air.
But
You're
it's
talking,
somewhere between 15 to 20 million pounds.
yeah, in League One. So for context, before this window, the record for a League One signing was £4 million. And that was the Will Grigg to Sunderland one that got kind of memed on in the Sunderland Till I
Yeah.
Die documentary. And remember in that
Well,
documentary, it's depicted as like crazy. They're spending 4 million. They're crazy. What are
yeah.
these people doing?
And it
And
was
Blues
like
have,
a player they were trying to sign for like 2 million, and then it
yeah,
panic bought
yeah,
right in the last hours of the window. They panicked, desperately needing a striker because Josh Madger had left, and
yeah,
they panic bought Will Grigg for £4 million, and
yeah.
then did terribly.
Yeah, so Blues have potential. I don't think it quite is that high, but Blues have potentially spent as much as five times that. It's higher than almost every transfer in Championship history, let alone League One.
Yeah,
Our record signing before this was Ivan Sunjic, which is undisclosed. I think it's around £7 million. It's something like that's to be believed. So this is you're talking over double that. Um, oh, insane, just insane. I don't know what to say. But now we also have. Obviously, I'm delighted. Obviously, Jay Stansfield is an excellent player. He scored against us for Fulham in the cup a couple of days
like
earlier.
days earlier.
Days earlier, and he didn't celebrate because it was against us. And then a few days later, I was at the Wigan game, and he's being introduced on the pitch before kickoff, and all the fireworks are going off. It's just when I say overwhelming, like I was, yeah, just a bit overwhelmed because it's just unheard of for Blues,
Yeah,
and I never thought like it'd take us to. It'd be we're in this position now in League One. It should be the lowest low ever, and yet we're in a position where we've really flexed our muscles. Tom Wagner and Knighthead have completely put their money on the table. They've said they've shown their ambition. And it's remarkable and it's really exciting. And we should, like, we should absolutely piss it this year, right? Like,
yeah.
we should walk it. Obviously, that's on paper, but we should absolutely walk it. Um, yeah, really exciting. I don't know what from the outside looking in it seems like. Is it madness or is it like,
I think it's madness. Because well, maybe not madness. I think it's a huge gamble. Not in terms of spending £20 million on a player, because we've done that and it hasn't worked, and it's just how it goes. I think the gamble is that I think before you signed Stansfield, I think original when the rumor for Stansfield first came out, you were looking at spending maybe 25 million in the whole window. You've probably spent about 30 odd, maybe a bit more throughout
yeah,
the
it must
whole
be.
window, which in League One is a huge gamble because that's a lot of new players. And if for whatever reason they don't gel or you get a few key injuries, or for whatever reason, maybe, we've seen it with Leeds or something, you just end up in the playoffs or something, you don't go up, you're in serious trouble. You're in serious trouble because you will fail EFL financial fair play. Like, it's just a given if you don't go up. Um, so it is a big gamble, but it's obviously a necessary gamble that they feel like they need to take because we saw with Sunderland, we saw with Derby, we saw with Sheffield Wednesday and Portsmouth.
Portsmouth. Yeah.
Teams that, like, you even see it when teams drop out the Premier League into the Championship. These are hard divisions to get out of. They are really difficult. And the last thing I think, obviously, your new ownership wants is to be stuck in League One, not being able to spend any money, not getting good gate receipts, just struggling really. And and they had bought a club which had effectively been failing for years, but just about scrapping to stay up. And so they're trying to turn that around. And I can understand why it's really exciting. I remember when we came up to the Premier League, well, oh my God, we signed Wesley for 20 million. Oh my God, we've signed this Nakamba bloke from Bruges. Like, we've signed Trezeguet, and these, you have that excitement. But I would be concerned that, there would be a concern in the back of my mind. If you don't go up, you're in a lot of trouble.
Sure. Yeah, I completely get it. I think it is a huge gamble, and they've obviously gambled on that. Obviously, I think Gary Cook said a couple of months ago, like, they're going to build a championship-ready team in League One. So, like, really, this team, if we go up, which we absolutely should, this team, they've obviously spent the money with the ambition of us being at the top end of the championship next season. It's not, they're obviously not thinking like, oh, stay up next year and then slowly build. They want this, like, they're putting the money in, man. Stansfield's coming in on a 7-year contract, which is, like, for Blues is, like, unheard of. I don't know if that's ever
Well, I
happened.
wasn't sure. Well, I heard he was on a 7 or 8 year deal, and I wasn't sure which Blues he'd signed for, whether it was Chelsea or Birmingham
Yeah,
City. you know,
yeah, some Chelsea level stuff going on there. But they're obviously seeing him as, someone to lead the team on a new era. Um, and I mean, we mentioned all those players that came in. I wonder if the Dykes thing. Don't get me wrong, Lynn Dykes a good signing for League One. Ironically, he can't play against Walsall tonight because he's away with Scotland. But I wonder if he was signed because they didn't think Stansfield was going to happen. That's what it strikes me as. Because now we've got.
Because it doesn't make a lot of sense. Because last week on the show when we were in Loughton, you said, you probably expect another striker because if Alfie May got injured, you've only got Duke, and Duke's a bit more of an impact player. He's old. He's on like a 1 year rolling contract effectively now. He can't be playing every game. And then you went and signed 2 strikers, so you've got 4 strikers now.
Yeah, I suppose the difference with Stansfield is he can play a bit more. He could play like as the 9, the 10, or on either wing. I think apparently his preferred position is actually as the 10, but he only ended up playing as the 9 so much last year because we didn't have a reliable 9, like because we had like Hogan as our main striker. Obviously now we've got like Alfie May is undroppable at the minute. Like he scored in every league game. So yeah, I mean obviously saying this, the Walsall game happened last night. Obviously, as so it's happening tonight as we're recording it, but by the time you're listening to this, it will have happened already. I would assume he played because Chris Davies has said he's going to play. I assume he'll play as the 10. I can only really assume that. I won't be shocked if Duke gets a game. But look, what a wealth of riches to have. It's yeah, so exciting. And as I say, hopefully with the United next season. And we kept. I know there's players left, but we also kept Paik, Sung Ho, and Christian Bielik, and then Mark Leonard is like one of the most highly rated midfielders in League One from last season. That Yokoyama is an absolute live wire. It's a really exciting time. Keshi Anderson was injured; he couldn't even get in the squad, so like he wasn't even in the squad. So that's like someone else to come back. It's just Dion Sanderson, I think, was injured as well. It's just a wealth of riches at the minute. Yeah, so really, really exciting.
Yeah, might as well go to the games. And we'll talk quickly on the Villa transfers because we were very quiet on deadline day. We did
Sure.
sign a young kid from Colombia. Um, he'll probably just play in the under 23s, maybe go out on loan in January. And then in terms of outgoings, there was only one, I think, which was Leander Dendonka. We finally got him out the door, but only on loan. So he's gone to Anderlecht on a season-long loan. By the sounds of things, when Monchi, Damien Binagani, Emery, McGinn all went on Talksport the other week, there was that. I think part of the reason they organised that big sort of like interview and day with Talksport on the media content day was to drill home the message of we've been hamstrung by PSR Champions League squad rules and why we maybe haven't been able to flex our muscles in the same sort of way as we would have liked going into the Champions League. Even though we've still spent big, we signed Amadou Onana for 50 million quid, but we've obviously lost big players and not really been able to replace them. So we weren't able to get rid of Diego Carlos. We were just about able to temporarily get rid of the likes of Philippe Coutinho and Leander Dendoncker. Callum Chambers has left. Basically, we're struggling to get rid of the players that Steven Gerrard signed. He signed a lot of experienced players on big money, and even the young players that he signed, like Abubakar Kamara, he came in on a free, highly rated. He's on huge money as well. Which is why, had he have not been injured, we might have probably looked to sell him in the window just gone. So hopefully, I think this was maybe a window of short-term pain for long-term gain. Maybe we've balanced the books, and now maybe in the next couple of years, if we can increase the revenue streams, things we can maybe look to spend a little bit more. So no incomings. I thought maybe we would bring a defender in at least on loan, but clearly being unable to shift Diego Carlos meant that kind of wasn't to be. So we're relying a lot on Tyrone Mings coming back from injury to actually be able to rediscover the form that he had before he got injured, because he's had a really nasty ACL injury. He's been out for well over a year. He's only just come back to training. He'll probably play in the next under-23s game. Some players don't recover from that sort of injury. So there's a lot, and for him to come back and need to be at the level that we want him to be at is quite a big ask. So I have to wait and see on that one. But yeah, otherwise a very quiet deadline day from us.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Shall we get into the matches then? Should we go on to that?
Yeah, well, we might as well talk about your record signing scoring against you before he scored. We said last week, put the money on it, and I almost did, and I just forgot to do it before the game kicked off. And then when I realised, he'd already scored.
Yeah, it's Stansfield. So Stansfield only scored 2 goals for Fulham, and they were 3 years apart, but they were both at St Andrews in the League Cup second round against Blues in Fulham wins, which is pretty remarkable. So yeah, we won't spend too long on it because it feels like, I say like overwhelming. This feels like ages ago now. It was literally a week ago. Yeah, Blues out of the League Cup. Sadly, we won't be winning it again. 14 years on from the last one. We lost 2-0 at home to Fulham. Premier League team though, and I thought we played really well. The game was, I unfortunately couldn't go, but I managed to catch up on it afterwards. And yeah, played really well. I thought we were 2-0 down quite early on. We gave a penalty away. Chris Davies was furious about the penalty because he said it was a really it was given for handball. He said it was really harsh and ridiculous. I honestly, I'm just not shocked it was given. They get given now. It's sort of your man's had a shot and Alex Cochrane sort of slid in to try and block it and it hit his hand. Like, it's really harsh. It is harsh, but it gets given. I'm not too hung up on it, to be honest. And then Jay Stansfield scores a couple of minutes later. Ethan Laird is kind of asleep, marking him and kind of a bit out of position. So Fulham win 2-0, but I thought we played really well. Had some really good chances. Willem Willemsen hit the post with a free hit the bar, I think, with a free kick, didn't he? And Keshi Anderson had a brilliant header cleared off the line. So we're out, but we played really well. We actually had more possession, controlled the ball really well, and yeah, I don't know. I thought I was pretty pleased with the performance, and on Sky they're actually very complimentary about it, about the performance. So yeah, it is what it is. And then obviously we had our mad deadline day spree. Stansfield comes in and everything, and then we played Wigan at the weekend, and we won 2-1 in a league game. At St Andrews, first win at St Andrews this season, and we go into the international break with 10 points out of a possible 12. So that's really, really positive, although it is the same that we had at this stage last year. And we know what happened there. So, no, great atmosphere, 28,000, 28,000, I think it was in attendance. Really great crowd, great atmosphere. Brilliant to see Tony Mowbray was there. I don't know if you saw that. Mowbray was at the game and got a standing ovation before the game, and I thought that was really nice. Great to see him in good health. So yeah, lovely to have you there, Tony. And yeah, we first half played really well. We're 1-0 up at half time. Alfie May scoring again. I think he's the first Blues player in like 70 years to score in the first 4 games of a league season. So really positive. But then second half, I thought we really fell asleep at the start of the second half. I thought we were very um, fortunate not to concede a little bit earlier. And then Bailey Peacock-Farrell has a bit of a howler, lets us kind of almost Scott Carson style for England, like lets the shot like spill between his legs and go into the net. Really poor goalkeeping, to be honest. I wouldn't be shocked if he's had a couple of errors now. I wouldn't be shocked if Ryan Allsop maybe gets the nod for the next league game against Wrexham in a couple of weeks. Um, and it was all of our own making. I think we just got complacent. We should have doubled our lead before half time. We were creating plenty of chances and just didn't really have that killer edge. Looked a bit complacent. And Wigan got exactly what they deserved. They deserved an equaliser at that point. And then we made some changes, and I think Wigan used all their subs, and then had a man off injured as well. So I think we had an extra man towards the end as well. Um, and then we made it count. Then we really stepped on it and really showed our talent. And there was 9 minutes of stoppage time, and I kind of had no real doubt we were going to get the goal. But then coming on for his debut, Scott Wright, who's coming from Rangers, one of the 17 signings, uh, lashes in the ball, bit of ping pong in the area. Christoph Clara back heels it to him or rolls the ball backwards to him. And Scott Wright scores right in front of the Tilton, and it was the maddest limbs I've been in for some time. The video is
And they
amazing as well.
looked, they as limbs go, it did look unreal.
It wasn't real. The only annoying thing is I wish the directing like stayed on it for longer on the what because it cut. Obviously, I understand it's following the player, so I understand why it's done it. But it cuts to like Scott Wright celebrating quite quick. I wish it just stayed on the crowd for a bit longer. It's an unbelievable sight. So we deserved it overall, but I'm been surprised honestly, with the exception of Wickham, by the standard in League One. Not that all these teams are very good, but they try and play nice football. I honestly thought everyone was going to be like Wickham, who were like the most Route One of Route One teams. But it's not really been like that. We have been in games with these teams. We've not blown anyone away yet. All our wins have been more one goal. So I feel like we've got a long way to go before it really clicks into gear. But another win, really positive. St Andrews just feels really good again. The whole outside the stadium now, like the club shop's open. They've got this new like walkway going up to the club shop now, and there's like fan park and all that. It just looks really good now. I love the new, the walkout videos and everything, just all that stuff. I really appreciate all that detail. So yeah, really positive, really, really good. Through a match review, I'll say, I don't know, right on track. We are right on track. 3 wins out of 4, looking really good. But I think we've got a long way to go. But I'm excited for everything to click into place, and the fact that we had so many options off the bench, and Stansfield and Iwata weren't even in the squad yet because they'd only signed the night before. So it's really encouraging. For a grade, I'll give it like a B plus. The only thing stopping it being an A is like the performance wasn't perfect. We needed a late goal to beat a pretty average Wigan team, but just that late goal, man, that's pretty special. That'd be one of the moments of the season, I think. And yeah, my man of the match, I thought Clara was excellent at centre back. He settled in really well. So yeah, I'll give it to him. But there was quite a few I could pick out. But we were able to make subs that impacted the game, so that's really exciting. So yeah, they were the 2 games we've had at the time of recording. We also played, as I've referenced, we played Walsall last night. Obviously, I don't know what the score was, but we'll talk about it on our next episode. EFL Trophy, a competition Blues haven't been in for 30 years since we won it in 1995. But I was talking so much about the squad depth that now we're going to go to EFL Trophy games, and like even if our second team plays, we're still watching on paper a really good team. So that's something to look forward to. When do you think how the last time that we played Walsall was? A little bit in a competitive game. We played them in pre-season like a month ago. But
I was going to say we played them in pre-season every year.
Yeah.
God, I mean, I haven't been anywhere near the championship. It's got to be getting on for like 30 years, maybe even a bit longer than that. Unless you
Not
got them
quite,
in the
not quite.
cup.
No cup games.
Let's go for like 94.
No, you're a little bit off, but 22nd of December 2001 in the old First Division, or the old Second Division, I should say, and we won 1-0. So would I take similar tonight? Nah. Let's have a bit of entertainment, score a few goals, hopefully. But we'll get on to their
Clean sheet,
fortunes
maybe.
shortly. Clean sheet would be nice. We haven't had one of them since the Charlton game. But we'll get on to their fortunes a little bit later, actually, because they're actually playing quite well at the minute. So that's Blues. Insane week, and everything just feels like it's going in the right direction. Ironically, after League One, being relegated to League One, and I think who knows? I think it might be one of them weeks we look back on as a real moment as we
Yeah,
course correct after 10 years of bad times. Maybe we're going in the right direction. This is the week where it really felt like a huge step in that right direction.
I think it'll be a pivotal week, whatever happens this season. If you go up, it'll be that was the week that we did all this, and if you don't go up and it all falls apart, I think you'll look back on this week as well.
Cool. So that was Blue. Remarkable week. What about Villa though? I know you played Leicester. So should we talk about Villa's week?
Yeah, so we've only had one game this week, which is away at Leicester. So annoyingly, it's an international break next week. It really doesn't feel like the season's properly got going, or as it started to get going, it's stopping again. So I talked about how we need players that need to keep playing regularly, like an Ollie Watkins, who definitely had a better game, probably one of his best out of the three this year. Very unlucky not to score. Had a good chance like 2 minutes into the game to score. And then had another good chance where he was pressing the goalkeeper and almost got to the ball before him, almost got a penalty, but the keeper just about did enough. But probably our worst performance of the season. We really weren't very good after the opening 20-25 minutes, especially when you compare to the Arsenal game the week before, where I really thought we were outstanding up until the point where Leandro Trossard scored, and then Arsenal just kind of walked it after that. But yeah, I didn't think we were great. We found a way to win. We ground out another result, another win away from home. 6 points from 9. Definitely would have taken that before the season started. Record signing on the score sheet again. In fact, it's the same two goal scorers at West Ham and the same scoreline. So Amadou Onana and John Duran coming off the bench to get the winner again. Two really good goals. The first one's a set piece. Austin McPhee earning his paycheck this week. Beautiful free kick routine. Completely catches Leicester by surprise. And it's just a tap in for Onana. And then 2 minutes after coming off the bench, Luca Dean finds the man, John Duran. And after the summer he had, the carnage he was causing behind the scenes, he scored 2 winning goals this season. And so it looked like he was almost dead set to leave. And he's already having a huge impact on our season already now that he's staying. There's a hilarious video at full time when the players go over to the away section and they're all clapping. And John Duran's just there with his hands on his hips. And John McGinn's standing in front of him and turns around. And as he turns around, Duran just starts clapping like furiously. So there's a few things that have come out this week where like John McGinn's been definitely maybe last season was unimpressed with a few things and has had a go at him a few times. So there's definitely like I can imagine John McGinn. I think an angry Scotsman would probably put the fear of God into you.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, a great win. A grade. We lost last week and I gave it a B. We won this week. I'm going to give it a C because we really didn't play well, but we did find a way to win. We had a few injuries, and all of a sudden you were looking at our bench in the first 2 weeks, going, "Oh my God, look at this depth!" And all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, yeah, we do look a bit light." We had Bogard made his debut playing at right back. I think he's a centre back by trade, but he was preferred to Costa Nedeljkovic, who did come on a little bit later on. I thought Bogard, bearing in mind like his last competitive game at professional level was with Bristol Rovers in the back end of 2023. His next game being like well over 6 months, 8 months later in the Premier League. I think he did quite well, really. And he wasn't even playing in position. So Emery trusts him and Emery likes him. So we'll see whether he kind of keeps that spot now that Matty Cash is injured. Clearly, with the injuries to Cash and Carlos and Mings, we are light defensively. And it'll be interesting to see that when Carlos is back fit, whether Emery will trust him over maybe a Bogard. When Diego Carlos is such a weird player. When he played last year, at his best, he was man of the match. And at his worst, he was a complete and utter liability in the team. I mean, he went and got sent off in pre-season against Leipzig, and it sounds like Unai Emery was less than impressed. Why are you getting sent off in pre-season? It just gives me memories to when Wesley did it a few years ago. So, what are you doing? But yeah, 3-word match review. I don't want a boring one like good away win, but another 3 points. We'll do it. We'll take it. It's rubbish, but we'll move on. So yeah, man of the match. Guess Onana. He only played 60 minutes, but I feel like when he picked up a bit of a knock, and when he went off, we were noticeable. He was a player that I never really rated too highly at Everton, but since he's come in, I feel like he's become such a key compartment a key component in our midfield that I feel like we do look a bit lost when he's not there. I thought Ross Barkley, when he came on, was very impressive. Definitely carrying on some of that form from his Luton days. So yeah, good win. But I just don't why we got another international break.
Yeah, I agree. And also the Euros feel so recent as well, because it was only like it finished 6 weeks ago. So going back into it already feels quite soon. Just for like not even World Cup qualifiers as well.
Yeah.
Although the England-Ireland game should be, I don't know, something at least.
Well, I suppose
Something
it's
to look
something that you
forward
got
to.
Lee Carsley
Yeah, it'd be very interesting actually.
managing England, having used to play for the Republic of Ireland.
Yeah. Ashley Cole obviously is going to be in the setup as well. Obviously a coach at Blues at the minute. Cool. Is there any more housekeeping at Villa Cow, or should we move into just a roundup of the other West Midlands teams?
Little bit, because arguably the biggest Aston Villa news this week had nothing to do with us playing football, which was we had draws for the League Cup and we had draws for the
Oh, of
Champions League as
course.
well.
Of course. How did I forget? Of course,
Yeah.
big news.
I was so excited for the League Cup draw. I mean, we've spoken before. We both love the League Cup, most underrated competition in English football.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think I've forgotten who played on the Wednesday night. I think it was Forest Newcastle. And after the penalty shootout, they put the results up for the day, and I saw like, oh, Wickham beat Swansea, and I put in our group chat manifesting Wickham away. Obviously, if you listen to the podcast, you know that I live down by Wickham. We went to the Blues game a couple of weeks ago, and we went to the EFL Trophy final last year as well.
Yeah, with
Um,
Wickham.
yeah, obviously there's the weird, slightly difference to the draw where the teams playing in Europe couldn't play each other
Right.
because of the expanded Champions League and Europa League formats. The fourth, is it the third or the fourth round? Third round, isn't it?
This is the
Of the League
third,
Cup.
yeah.
Yeah, the third round of the League Cup weirdly is going to be split over 2 weeks because of the expansion to the Champions League and Europa League.
Right.
Weirdly, they've sort of seeded it, I guess, in terms of we've got home and away ties, but maybe there must be some logic to it in terms of they want to split those games up across the weeks or something. I don't really understand. But yeah, to my shock, we were well, maybe not to my shock, but they were pulling the names out of the hat, and there was 4 home ties first. We weren't any of them, so like, okay, we're away. I love an away cup draw because there's a good chance I can get a ticket, especially if it's like a Premier League or a top championship. And anyway, Wickham comes out of the hat. Like, come on, please be Wickham away. And unbelievably, ball number 2 came out of the hat.
I just love that. Like, obviously, we're about to get into your Champions League draw in a
Yeah.
sec. Instead, you're like, Wickham away. I'm
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It was just one of those where like,
No, completely. You can go. Absolutely.
I'll be able to go. I'll be home within 10 minutes of the game. So that's one. Hopefully, I'm in the country because I travel a lot for work. So fingers crossed, I should be in the country when the game happens. Otherwise, I'll be really annoyed.
That was like
Yeah.
me last year. I really wanted us to get. I went to uni in Cheltenham, and I like always hoped we'd get Cheltenham in a cup because one of my biggest regrets is I didn't really go to Cheltenham games when I lived there, and I was like, oh, I'd be wicked to go to Blues away there, and we got them, and I was in Ireland that week, so I couldn't go. I was like, oh. But yeah, no, I can understand absolutely.
Yeah. So we got Wickham away in the League Cup. The date, the time, and whether it's on telly or not hasn't been announced yet. Even though all the games are technically on Sky now with the new deal, whether it's one of the featured games, I guess.
Yeah. Sure.
Although Wimbledon, Newcastle is like a dead cert to be one of those featured games. So um, then the Champions League draw, which was like 2 days later, we had an amazing draw in that as well, and a nice mix of winnable games and glamour ties. We got Bayern Munich at home, Leipzig away, Juventus at home, Young Boys away. We've got Bologna at home, Celtic at home, Monaco away, and I've missed one of the away games out. I can't remember which one it is, but anyway, we've had an incredible draw, really. I mean, the home games of Bayern, Celtic, and Juve. I mean, yeah, you couldn't have picked better teams out of the hat for that.
No, no. Oh, I would have loved you to have got Madrid, obviously. But
Yeah, I
Real
really want
Madrid.
us to play Real. I wanted us to play Real Madrid, kind of at home as or either home or away. But the
Oh yeah.
thought of maybe
Oh,
maybe I'm
Jude.
happening the Jude Bellingham scoring at the
Oh,
home
were
because I
you gonna
know
say
it'll happen.
were you gonna say maybe it's gonna happen in the knockouts? Is that what you were
Yeah.
gonna say then? No, come on, behave yourself. Behave yourself.
No,
Um,
I think we've got a good chat. We'll talk on it a bit later on as we hit the Champions League campaign.
oh no,
But I
like
think
I mean, annoy. And sorry to interrupt, Karen.
no, but I think we've got there's a good mix of games where you go, we can target that and win it. Um, the goal of our Champions League campaign has got to be to make the round. I guess it's the round of 16, isn't it? So that is got to be the aim. And you know, of the really tough ties that we've got, which is Bayern, Juve, and Celtic all at home, you'd want those games to be at home because the chances, you know, if we were playing away to Bayern, the chances of us beating Bayern Munich is probably really slim anyway. But we've got a better chance if we're at Villa Park. And then in terms
Yeah.
of our away games, you know, we've got Leipzig away. You know, we've played. It was of all the hat names that came out of the hat, that was the one I was most disappointed of because we played them twice in pre-season in the last
Mm.
4 years. So I've seen us play RB Leipzig, and we
Yeah,
played them in
sure.
the
And they're
summer
not
just
really.
gone.
I know they're now a big team, but they're not like historically. It's kind of like when you get like Man City in the cup. It's not for me. It's not really the same. Still, like I don't know.
And
I
they
know
were a
they're a
pot
massive
one
club, but
team.
it's not.
They
Yeah,
were
yeah,
arguably like the one. They were like they are definitely the weakest pot one team. As well as you know,
yeah, sure.
there was Dortmund in. I know we played Dortmund in pre-season, but you know when you've got um, Real Madrid and PSG, uh,
Yeah,
Leipzig was just a bit of a disappointing one. I kind of wanted Atleti as well, but they were again or Barcelona, but sadly not to be. But again, you never know what might happen if we can get to the knockout round. So yeah, great draw. Unfortunately, the Bologna home game I definitely can't go to because I'm away. But I think I can do all the rest of the home games. So of all of the home draws that I couldn't it's kind of worked out that it's the
yeah,
Bologna
yeah.
one. No disrespect to Bologna, but if I was missing the Bayern Munich or the Juve game
Oh
or
yeah,
the Celtic
you
game,
would.
I would have been devastated. So,
Yeah. Are you gonna try and get to an away game? Any chance?
well, I definitely won't get tickets for them. In the away end, whether I can go and get a ticket in the home end or just go for the shits and
The
gigs,
experience. Yeah.
then yeah, we'll see. The Monaco away games kind of would be a kind of cool one to do. But that stadium is tiny and Monaco is very expensive. So that probably won't happen. If we get to the knockout round and if we were to get, say, Real Madrid or a Barcelona, yeah, 100%. Even if
Yeah.
I wasn't going to the game, just to go and soak up the atmosphere, because you never know when that's going to happen again.
Exactly. Absolutely. Be lovely if Celtic get a 1-0 win away there, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I think unlikely, but that'd be quite nice.
Well, with such a big Irish community in Birmingham, I think the half and half scales for the half and half scarf sales for Celtic Villa is going to go through the
Oh,
roof.
yeah. I thought that when we played Rangers in pre-season, they were selling them. I was like, ugh, oh,
Yeah.
God, it's bizarre. But they just, yeah, I don't know. The whole concept to me, a bit mad. Um, uh, cool. Shall we move on to just a quick West Midlands roundup then, Cal?
Yeah, shall we mix it up this week and go? We normally go Premier League to National League. Shall we mix it up and go the other way?
Yeah, sure,
Or
sure.
is that going to throw
Tell
your
you what,
notes completely out the window?
don't worry, I can work with it. Cool. Should we start with a bit of non-league then? So, big news first of all. Tim Flowers is still in a job. He's not coming to Blues or Villa or Wolves or West Brom anytime soon because Redditch won again 2-1 at the weekend, so they're doing quite well at the moment. Solihull Moors drew Wealdstone 1-1 in the National League, so that puts them about mid-table at the minute. They're doing a lot better than Tamworth, who are currently just sitting above the relegation zone in the National League. So good luck to all our local teams down there at the moment. Just above them, Walsall. So obviously they played Blues this week. Obviously, again, I don't know what happened, but they're in a really good vein of form at the moment, which is why we can't really take them too lightly. Really, they beat Cheltenham 2-1 at the weekend. So they're currently second in League Two. So looking pretty promising for them. Imagine if they came up to League One, Carl. That'd be pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they definitely haven't hit maybe those big heights because they're such a small club. I mean, to be right on the outskirts of Birmingham, to have the fan base to do, honestly, if they get up, it'd be amazing.
Yeah, that'd be very interesting. Moving up into the Championship, so West Brom have had an unbelievable start to the season, really. So we're going into the first break, and they've also got 10 points out of 12. That's because they beat Swansea 1-0 at the weekend at the Hawthorns. They're ending to the transfer window, nothing too crazy. They did bring in winger Mikey Johnston from Celtic. He's a left winger. They brought him in for about £3 million. And they also brought in Mason Holgate on loan, actually, from Everton. I don't know about you,
Well,
Kat. I've been a little
they had
surprised.
him on loan in our promotion year because he famously missed the first penalty in the
Oh,
shootout
wow.
against Jed Steer. So,
Oh, I
um,
completely forgot about that. I was at the game. Completely forgot
yeah.
about it. um,
So yeah, he's gone back there. A player that Everton have been desperate to get rid of, and they no can't find a buyer.
yeah, absolutely. Although, to be fair, he's probably just keen to be anywhere other than Everton at this point in time. But yeah, Baggy's having a really good start to the season. I'm a little bit surprised personally, but
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
we spoke about them in pre-season, and especially with like the transfer embargo business plan thing they were put under. Um, and we thought maybe they did well. Let's say they thought, but they did overachieve last year, really. Getting into the
yeah.
playoffs, I don't think we were expecting much from them at all. So strong start. Whether they can keep it up remains to be seen. But as we said, they've got the right manager.
Yeah, absolutely. Carlos Corberán doing a great job there. So it'd be interesting to see if they can maintain it. But yeah, really good start. I'm sure Baggies fans would be very happy. If there's any watching or listening, let us know in the comments. Can you maintain it for the rest of the season? I'd be really interested to hear from you. Also in the Championship, then let's get on to Coventry. So they lost 1-0 at home at the weekend to Norwich. Borja Signs scored the goal. They've got 4 points from 4 games. Their win as well, not to dismiss Oxford at all, because they've won a couple of games, but their win was against Oxford. Just not got going yet, really, Cov.
Yeah.
Boyle accounts weren't great. The weekend opening day, they had a really poor loss. The Boyle accounts a really poor performance against Stoke. Yeah, just not got going at all. I don't know what you think, Al. What are you making of it all so far?
The break probably comes at a good point for them, doesn't it?
Yeah,
You know, and you expect big things from them this year. I guess when you keep losing your best players in the summer windows, it's always going to be difficult. But it's early days. There's always a team that runs away or is doing really well at the start of the season in the EFL leagues that always ends up in a relegation battle. Like last year, it was it's been Reading years before that. And there's always teams that start really slowly. And Coventry, famously, in the last couple of years, have started really slowly. There was a
yeah,
year
true.
when was it the Commonwealth Games year when they couldn't play at the Rico, and so they missed loads of home games for ages, and they ended up in the playoffs at the end of it, and they were really slow starting. So it's about pacing yourself. They probably haven't had the start they wanted, but the break comes at a good point. We'll see what they do in the weeks coming up.
Yeah, in terms of their transfer business, it was interesting. I think it was on deadline day. Casey Palmer left them. He's gone to Hull now. Bit of an odd one, in my opinion. Like, I don't know if there are any rumours or if there's anything's gone on there. He obviously played a lot for them last season. He was playing for them in every game before he moved. He actually scored the other week as well. We touched on it here. To sell him to a direct rival, I'm not sure. It's an undisclosed fee, I believe. I say a direct rival. Hull, you would expect, like, would do pretty well this year. Obviously, they've spent quite big over the last couple of years themselves. So I found that a little bit strange. The only thing I can think is maybe the player wanted to go. I just find it a little bit strange, but Carve never been scared to sell before, I suppose, and they've always found they're kind of like what Brentford used to be, where they
Yeah.
kind of find replacements and build on it. Yeah, with him and O'Hare going this window, they're two good players that they've lost, but I stand by it. I think they'll have a good season. I think Mark Robbins is a very good manager, and he's worked in
Yeah,
much
yeah.
tougher circumstances before. So yeah, keep tabs on them. I'd be shocked if this form maintains for much longer. Uh, and that brings us finally in the Premier League onto Wolves. So they drew away at Nottingham Forest 1-1. What I couldn't believe was Chris Wood is still playing football. He scored for Nottingham Forest. I love obviously Chris
He's
Wood.
in he's in he's in unreal form.
Yeah, he
Nuno knows how to get the best out of him clearly because he was in great form at the back end of last year, and he started this season on fire. He's an outside shot for my fantasy team at this point.
Oh wow! I mean, yeah, he just feels like he's been around forever. Obviously, he was with
Yeah,
Blues in the Europa League days. So that's about 13, 14 years ago. So yeah, Wolves, they've only got 1 point going into the international break. But bit of context, obviously, Arsenal away, Chelsea at home, Forest away. Like, yeah, they probably hoped for a little bit more. Maybe thought they could upset Chelsea, but yeah, they've not had a great start to the season. But they did have a
they were busy on
fairly
deadline
busy.
day.
Yeah, they were. So obviously the big signing was well, I mean, big kind of the one that jumped out to me was Sam Johnston, I should say, goalkeeper, is coming from Crystal Palace for £10 million. Obviously, he used to play for Villa, didn't he, Cal?
Yeah,
Um,
and West Brom.
and he was at West Brom, yeah, so just Blues to come. Um, and Cardiff, obviously. Do you what do you think of that signing? Do you think it's good? Obviously, they were looking at Ramsdale, who's going to have gone to Southampton. Do you think that's kind of a decent buy for them?
Well, we talked about them struggling to spend a bit of cash, clearly. So that's obviously why Ramsdale's gone to Southampton because they probably couldn't afford to pay 20, 25 million quid on a goalkeeper. It's been quite clear for a while that um, Jose Sarr has not been the preferred goalkeeper, even though he has. I think he started all the games last year. Lopetegui, I think, dropped him just before he left, and Bentley was playing in goal, and then obviously he left, and Gary Neal came in. Clearly, he's wanted to upgrade the goalkeeper as well. So, which I think would surprise people from the outside because I think a lot of people on the outside quite rate Jose Sarr as a half decent goalkeeper. But yeah, two managers clearly don't fancy him anymore. Sam Johnson, I've always really rated. Ever since his full season at Aston Villa, I remember being gutted that we couldn't sign him. I thought he was fantastic for West Brom, even when they were in the Premier League. Again, one of those goalkeepers that just couldn't really find another club. A goalkeeper that would come up, do great in a side that got relegated, and then no one would really pick them up. And then I think he went on a free to Crystal Palace. And I think he was the number two behind Guaita. Then kind of got the number one shirt. And then they've signed Dean Henderson and they were battling for the number one shirt, got injured, lost his place, and became the number two again. So I think the move to Wolves will be a good one for him if he can hold down the number one shirt because I do think he's a really good goalkeeper and I think he's a good goalkeeper at that level as well. So, yeah, I mean, I wish him all the best. It's a shame that he's just been hopping around Midlands teams, but yeah, I think it's a good signing for them and clearly must be an upgrade on Jose Sarr.
Yeah, and they were busy elsewhere. They brought in Ethan Sutherland from St Mirren, Sebastian Lockhead from Dundee United, or sorry, just Dundee, I should say. There's Dundee and Dundee United, isn't there? They signed a young centre back from Chelsea, and they signed a midfielder called Andre from Fluminense, who has played 5 times for Brazil. So he must have something about him.
I don't know.
And they
Wesley
also learned
got
in
caps for Brazil, so
that's true. They're not. Was it the year they hosted the World Cup? They had the QPR goalkeeper in goal for them, and I was like, that
yeah,
seems a bit odd to me. Um, and yeah, they brought in a right winger called Carlos Forbes in on loan from Ajax as well. So obviously Gary O'Neill, he kind of was quite outspoken about. He thought they needed investment. He thought they needed new players coming in, and they've got that. All the fees are undisclosed, really, with the exception of the Sam Johnston one. So it'll be interesting to see. Be interesting to see where that goes from here. But I won't look too much into their results so far. Although conceding sixth to Chelsea is a little bit alarming. Um,
yeah, and they've also announced today that Daniel Podence has left as well. Obviously, he was on loan at Olympiacos last year, and but he had played a few games at the start of this year. Got one or two assists in the League Cup as well. So maybe a surprise that he's left, but by the sounds of things anyway, he hated Wolverhampton. He hated living in
yeah.
Wolverhampton. So. Maybe not too much of a surprise that he's gone. He'd gone to the Saudi Pro League. Um, But yeah, I mean, he caused us a load of problems at Olympiacos last year, and I think he even scored when he played for Wolves the year before. A great little player, but yeah, so he will be a loss, even though he didn't play there last year.
Cool. I think that just about wraps us up for our West Midlands roundup and the pod on the whole for this week, I guess, Cal, because obviously we are going into an international break, so no games to really preview for the
No,
moment.
no games to preview. We'll see what we come up with next week. Maybe we'll finally
Yeah.
get onto a Second City story that we haven't done for a while. So,
Yeah.
well, there will be a pod next week. I'm going to be relying on hotel Wi-Fi next week, so for the next couple of weeks. So this should be an experience. All my podcasting gear, as you can tell, I still don't have with me. It's in Loughton still. So,
Sure.
we're going to take the pod on tour again.
Yeah, very good. Where are you off to next week? Where are you off to?
Sardinia for 2 weeks.
Very nice. I will be here,
Can't
so don't
complain.
worry. But yeah, do tune in next week. We'll come up with something else, be something a bit unique. But also we'll be previewing obviously the next round of games. Obviously, I don't know who Villa have got, but for Blues, we'll be previewing the Wrexham game, which is going to be on the Monday night. One of the big games of the season, obviously the All-American affair. So yeah, really looking forward to that one. So do make sure you tune in for that.
We'll be playing Everton at home, so we'll be previewing that. We'll hopefully have dates for the Wickham game as well. Well, I mean, that Wrexham game, Dan, we'll just touch on it quickly. Luckily, it's being played in the UK because, by all intents and purposes, they wanted that game to be played in America.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if there is something in that. I wonder if they'll fly out like Brady and Ryan Reynolds and all them for it. That'd be
Yeah,
interesting because
probably.
I'm sure it's not a coincidence. It's on a time that may suit like an East Coast audience in America as well.
Mm.
But yeah, it should be interesting. We will next week. I will touch on obviously the Walsall game as well. I'll do a very quick roundup on that in case anything really major happened. Uh, because we are an EFL trophy team now as well. Cool. Shall we wrap it up there then, Cal? Because I got to get to the Walsall game, which is happening
Yeah.
very soon. Speak of the devil. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, let's call it a day. Pleasure to see you as always, Dan. I'll catch you next week. Enjoy the EFL trophy and up the Villa.
Take care, Cal. Shit on the Villa. Keep right on and see you next time.